So what Kronos did was that he killed his father. Well, he didn't actually kill him. He killed his masculinity, shall we say. And what he did with his masculinity was he threw it into the ocean. And out of the ocean came Venus. She was born of the manhood of Uranus. And so there's always been kind of an ambivalence about Venus and the person that, took away her father's manhood, Kronos. It's a difficult situation. Anyway, I've digressed enough. I will go back to Venus and Capricorn, enough to say that it is a little too structured for Venus. She doesn't want to have that kind of organization. Venus in Aquarius. Now, this is the person that will do very unusual things in the way that they dress and organize things. It's the person that instead of having the lamp on the ceiling will have it on the floor. It's the person that instead of wearing, when everybody else is wearing short skirts, she'll wear long skirts, and vice versa. She's just the person that wants to be a little different. Probably punk fashion came from a Venus and Aquarius person. Purple and green hair and stuff like that. Now we come to Venus's sign of exaltation. Venus in the sign of Pisces. This is the final sign. It's the most beautiful place for Venus. It is about, if you think of the age of the Romantics, of the age of chivalry, King Arthur's court, all the roving bards and people that told beautiful stories and inspired people to the perfection of love. That's what Venus in Pisces is about. It is about that ideal, beautiful, perfect love that we can all have for each other and for ourselves.
And I'm so confused now. What I got out of this is I have to ask any doctor I go to when they were born.
Well, no.
Bear with me for a second.
Yeah.
Number one, Venus is a she, Mars is a he.
Right.
Planets have sexes?
Yes, very much so. If you think in medicine, the sign that is usually used in medicine, because medicine was originally, anyone who studied medicine, 500 years ago, also studied astrology, because the body parts and the different, what do they call it, phlegmatic, the person that is more sanguine and more phlegmatic and all of that, that relates to the different cardinalities and different elements in astrology. Wait a minute, I got off the track. What was I saying?
No, we were talking about, I have to go out and ask every doctor I go to now when they were born. We were talking about, well, back in the old days, there were no female doctors either, though.
No, but most people went to the old lady in the woods because most people could not pay or go to a doctor. So the person that really took care of most of the people in the world was the midwife, the woman that gave potions and worked with herbs and, really understood how nature interconnects.
The Chinese are very noted for their Chinese medical herbs.
Exactly.
What relationship did they put to astrology? Was it something that they were into? I don't know.
They were, but it's a more, from my point of view, because I'm not Chinese, it's a more complicated system. I think they deal with 144 stars, so they're not dealing with the planets per se. Or perhaps they are. I don't really understand how they do it, but it's a much more complicated system.
Can I ask you, here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the planets. The planets are not stars, though. But astrologers look at planets as they relate to where they are in the solar system, which are stars.
Right.
If the planets have such an effect on the stars, am I correct? Don't they?
Well, you kind of have to think of it as being vibrations. The problem with, trying to explain this scientifically is that I don't think that there are words that can really express it. It's having to do with things like sound waves, and I'm not an astronomer, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist. I am interested in all of those things, but they are not, to be able to really explain what you're asking me, maybe we could get somebody in to talk to me about it sometime.
All right. The other thing, I'm interested because, we had the story this morning, tomorrow at 9:09 p.m. Everybody's going to be able to see the Atlantis and the Mir spacecraft go across the sky. And back in the old days, whenever that was, and it could have been last week for all but going back years ago, if they had seen something like this, and, they had carefully looked at where the planets were, and then all of a sudden this strange object came in, did that break their faith in astrology or their beliefs?
No, I think there would just be a new myth created to make room for it. People enjoyed telling stories, and whenever it rang true, the story would stay. If there was an element of truth to the story, it would stay. That's why we still have certain myths today. It's because it rang true to a lot of people. It doesn't mean that you can say, like science, that it's a fact, but there is truth. And this is, another philosophical question. What is the difference between facts and truth?
That's why I was just going to ask you that question. What is the difference? Is there?
I don't know. I think everybody has to answer that question for themselves. Some people prefer facts. It's easier to deal with. They say, okay, well, I know that, a cup of coffee costs, 35 cents today, and tomorrow it might cost $1, depending on where I buy it. They like those kind of facts, whereas other people might be more concerned of, what kind of coffee, or how did they make it, or what kind of milk did they put into it. I mean, that would be more an inner truth of how you like your coffee. You can't really explain how you like your coffee, can you? Just that it tastes. You can't sort of give it facts.
Okay.
That's a little vague, I realize, but I can't think of an example.
All right. Now, let's do a little Shakespeare here. But soft with light through yonder window breaks, it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill her envious maid, that thou her maiden art more beautiful than she. Something pretty close to that. Stars also apparently are he's or she's, or are they all she's? Shakespeare, when he wrote, kill the envious moon, that thou her maiden art more beautiful than she.
Well, the moon and Venus are both thought of as being feminine. Okay? The moon has three faces. The old woman, the middle-aged woman, the woman that's in her prime of life, that's giving, the working with children, and the young woman. And there are many different myths that apply to this. The Persephone myth is one.
What is that?
Persephone, her mother was Demeter. Demeter was the earth goddess. She was the one that made all of the earth grow, all the plants and flowers and food and everything. She was the one that nurtured Demeter. She had this beautiful, beautiful daughter called Persephone, who leans over one day when she's playing in the fields and picks a narcissus. This is very important. What is a narcissus?
Yes.
Narcissus is a certain kind of flower.
Yes.
And when we talk about narcissistic personalities, it's someone that is looking for themselves in the other person. So Persephone was she was breaking away, individuating from her mother, but she was looking into the flower. What happened? Because it's a little dangerous if you become too egocentric, the earth opened up, and Hades came and took her away.
All right, bear with me for a second. I never did well with Greek mythology. Which was the Greek mythology there before astrology came about, or did astrology come before Greek mythology? How long has astrology been around?
It's been around 3,000 years, more or less. All
right, so that would be after the Greeks.
Before the Greeks.
Now you know why I didn't do well in mythology here, or history.
What happened originally was astrology was developed in Babylonia and Chaldea. And through, I think, Alexander the Great and various people that would, conquer different worlds, astrology, the idea behind astrology ended up in Greece. And what the Greeks did was they made it very cohesive. It's rather like the ideas of Plato. Plato was someone that would take that which is a little, we're back to the discussion of truth and fact, Plato would take things that are a little elusive in trying to discuss them and make them a little more concrete. He still dealt with, very abstract thought, but he did make things more concrete. And the astrologers, the original astrologers in Greece, did also make it more concrete. But in those days, let me just preface the fact that everybody that did this in those days, it was not about individuals. They did not do you and me. They did, the kings and, dates when you would go to war or, dates that you would plant. The moon was very important. But they didn't feel that the individual was that important. It was only, very educated people.
Now, things have changed since then, though, because now astrology is for everyone?
I like to think it is. I think astrology...
How's it changed?
Well, I think it's changed in the sense that, because we're in, the world is getting smaller and we're learning to talk to each other better. I am, being a little Pollyanna about this, but I do believe in the positive side of human nature, and I think we are trying to be more tolerant of each other. And astrology is a tool, very much like psychology or many different things, to enable you to be clearer about who you are, to have another sense of who you are. And the clearer you are about yourself, the clearer you will be with others, and communication will get better. People will interconnect better. So I think astrology helps with that. As to why exactly it's happened, there are everybody will have a different reason. Astrology says the reason it's happened is because the planet Uranus was discovered in the 1750s or 60s or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. It's about higher communication, higher thought. It's really when humanity became more important. Individuals in the humanitarian issues became more important, like the French Revolution, fraternity, equality, what was the third word? Well, anyway, the American, French, Russian, all those revolutions were about the common man. So it became much more important for the common man to understand themselves. Whereas in the old days, it was mainly about the rulers and the intellects and so on.
Okay. We're talking to Mary Michele on Meet the VIPs. I'm Mike Cernoff. We'll be back. I got a couple more questions. I think we'll then open up the phone lines at 241-1310. We will be back after these words.
Another perfect morning aboard the good ship Lotus Aggressor.
Wainwright, look! Visitors!
Ahoy!
I think they paddled over from that disgusting little red scow over there.
Spare me. Yes, may we help you?
Hi, I'm Jay, my wife Michelle.
How you doing?
Charms.
Saw you steam into the harbor in your beautiful boat last night.
Figured we'd come welcome you to the neighborhood.
Great.
Here, brought you casserole.
Oh, how nice.
Well, gotta go. Hey, come visit us sometime.
On that cute little red boat over there, you bet.
Huh? Oh, no, that's the Wismers. Great people. No, we're just behind it. The white one with the two silver...
Helicopters on the aft deck.
Yeah, that one.
New York Lotto. Hey, you never know.
Attention all New York Lottery fans. Be sure to watch the official televised lottery drawings for Lotto, Take 5, Win 4, and Numbers on WABC Channel 7. So tune in tonight to Channel 7 and see the winning numbers as they come up.
All right, we're at 28 minutes past 9 o'clock here at WVIP. We're going to take your phone calls a couple of minutes away at 241-1310. If you do want to talk to Mary Michele, perfect time to get in. We have a couple of open lines here, 241-1310, and we'll be back with Mary Michele in 1 minute. Professional sports care where you don't have to be an athlete to be treated like one. High school and recreational athletes, corporate employees, industrial workers, and weekend warriors, you can now all take advantage of professional sports care facilities and their expertise. Pioneered by the medical staff of the New York Football Giants, Professional Sports Care is the largest network of rehab centers in the tri-state area. They provide comprehensive physical, occupational, and rehabilitative services for all orthopedic and sports-related injuries. At Professional Sports Care in Mount Kisco, they work with every patient in a hands-on, proactive, safe, and a very functional environment. Each patient receiving an individualized program that expresses the expertise of the staff, the needs and goals of the patient to facilitate full recovery to the pre-injury level of function. And with the emphasis on today's active lifestyle, no matter what age you are, there does come the increased risk of injuries. If you're injured, call Professional Sports Care or visit one of their convenient northern Westchester locations. If you're a commuter and have trouble scheduling, you can tap into their extensive network for all your therapy needs. And remember, at Professional Sports Care, you don't have to be an athlete to be treated like one. Call Professional Sports Care today, 241-0106, or stop by at 40-02 Radio Circle, Mount Kisco. And welcome back to Meet the VIPs. Mike Sarnoff along with Mary Michele, our astrologer. And if you want to talk to Mary Michele, 241-1310, number to call. I got a question. Everybody's been talking big brouhaha about the 13th sign. Any truth to this?
The 13th sign is something that astronomers and astrologers have known about for quite a long time. The people that I know and admire and that follow these kinds of trends in astrology really believes that it's not something to take into consideration. I think it's kind of like a doctor in the way, one day he'll tell you something's good for you and the next day he'll tell you that it's not. It's not to denigrate doctors. I quite like them, but astrology as well, sometimes there'll be issues around that kind of thing, and I think that it's just not something to confuse yourself further. There's enough in astrology to really get your mind thinking that to try to deal with the 13th sign, it's doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
All right. Now, the follow-up question to that is, are astrologers astronomers? I know you said you're not, but obviously they had to have some purview of what was going on up in the skies.
Well, at one time, astronomy and astrology were the same thing. As I understand it, the world kind of shifted at about the time of Isaac Newton, and things became, either philosophical, religious, or, contemplative, or they became scientific. And anyway, science has done leaps and bounds, particularly in the area of medicine and travel and so on. I mean, people are living much longer. I think that the whole medical profession, because there's so many of them and it's very competitive and so on, they're just always coming up with a lot of very, very good new things. But the point is that, at one time it was important for you to understand the inner workings, the things that were not so factual. And do you understand a little bit what I'm talking about?
You had to understand the what as opposed to...
Well, in other words, you had to deal with this side of yourself that was not so much about facts. It's the place you go when you listen to music or you draw a picture or you go to a museum or whatever. This is a place that is not about dealing with how am I going to get from here to there. This is a place that you are contemplative, that you allow yourself to daydream, that you think about things that are not necessarily what are going to get you from A to B.
Okay, may I ask this question? There are certain indications or certain modalities. That's the word I want to think of. Certain modalities. If you have a very bad headache, they say, think of a place where you are relaxed, where you are comfortable, where you are happy. You're nodding your head.
Yes, of course. Well, this is exactly what it is. I mean, you need to visualize things. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the aspirin. I mean, you should take whatever it is that you need to take as well. Of course, you shouldn't take too much of it, but you should believe in the fact that these factual things like medicine and what the doctor may tell you to do are very, very, very important. But if you can at the same time, if you have a pain somewhere, visualize that it's no longer throbbing. If you can start thinking about the fact that there are clouds around it and things are calm, that will help as well.
All right, we apologize to the people who are holding. We're going to get to you in just a couple seconds, but I got another follow-up here. All right, here you are. You are in this position where you are now thinking of a nice place. You said that, the doctors are people who are born the real, I don't want to say the really good ones, but you said if Venus is in the right place, then, you're going to get somebody who's real bright coming up with great ideas. For the average Joe Blow out there or Jane Doe, here we are in a situation, are there certain signs that are more prone to getting sick than others? I just wonder about this because I don't know if there's been a statistical analysis done, but I wonder if certain people born at certain times of the year are more susceptible to coming down with ailment.
Well, I think most everybody knows that the sign that's the most famous for that is Virgo. Virgo does tend to worry about her health.
Virgo worry about her health.
Well, Virgo is, the symbol for Virgo is the virgin, the woman with the wheat of shaft. She's the shaft of wheat. She's the story of Virgo was that she at one time walked the earth and got involved with humanity, but they kept screwing up, and she got fed up and went up into the skies, and she became a constellation. So she's...
Now I see. Now maybe this is why I don't remember Greek mythology.
Well...
Okay, if you'd be so kind as to put your spectacles on and get your books out.
Okay.
The first caller we had asked not to be on the air, not to use her name.
Okay.
But her date of birth was March 15th, 1945, 3/15/45, and her husband, her current husband is the way she put it to me. Her date of birth is...
Wait, just a second.
Okay.
I can only do one at a time.
Okay. 3/15/45. She wanted to know if she was going to have marital problems with her husband, who's about a year older than she is.
Okay. Now, give me his... Okay.
His date of birth is September 11th, 1944. So he's about 6-7 months older than she is.
Let me just say off the top of my head, just looking at the polarity that's going on here. Ideally, you have realized your opposite. You have found a mate that will help you in your potential to become yourself. You're a Pisces, and he's a Virgo. These are opposite signs. Now, the nature of opposites, as you can imagine, lots of times they don't get along. I would have to look at the whole chart, really, to be able to say, how badly it's deteriorated. But for you right now, it's feeling there's more pressure for you about it because the planet Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. So your will is being sublimated. So it may seem to you that he has more control. The peak has passed. I mean, the worst part of it's over. And if this rings true to you, if you feel like the worst part of the problem with him is over, then I would stick it out for a while.
Okay. On the phone with us now is Lori, date of birth June 1st, 1959. Now, here's a good question. This is a person who was born 5 time zones away from us. She was born in Hawaii. Does that affect reading, by the way? Good morning, Lori.
Much.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Lori, are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Lori. Yes, the longitude and latitude are very important of where you're born, but I can't do this here because you need to take all the coordinates, and I can only look at where the planets are, but it's terribly important, and it will set up what your rising sign is. So, yes, it will. So you're June 1st, did you say?
Yes.
1959. Was there a particular question?
Yes, I was wondering what my future might hold. There has been a recent change in my job situation, and I am looking for a job. So I was wondering what the future may hold for that.
How recently? When did you...
Well, today's my last day.
But when did it start ending?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay. You're going to find work again, quickly. Is that what you wanted to know?
How quickly? Is it a total change in my career, or?
Probably not. Do you work with I don't know, computers, or do you work in the hospital?
Computers.
Computer.
Communications.
I'm sorry?
In communication.
In communications. Don't you have possibilities already?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think it's going to be decided, by the end of next week.
Well, that would be wonderful.
I think you'll have a strong sense, and you won't be long without it.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Lori. It is now 21 minutes before the hour. If you have a question for Mary Michele, 241-1310. We will be back with Mary Michele talking about astrology after these words on WVIP, 1310 AM and cable channel 12.
This summer, why not gain the experience you need to be competitive in today's job market? College internships are one way to improve your resume and make your inevitable job search an easier one. This upcoming summer, WVIP-TV will be accepting applications for internships. Gain experience in news, video production, programming, promotions, and public relations. Intern applicants do not necessarily have to be broadcast communication or journalism majors. WVIP-TV seeks to offer its interns intense hands-on experience in all aspects of a working cable station. So call WVIP-TV today and find out if an internship in television is right for you. Students must meet certain requirements and college credit may be available. So call 914-241-1310 for more information. That number once again is 914-241-1310.
And if you have a question for Mary Michele, yes, we do have an open line here at 241-1310, 241-1310, and we will be back with more on astrology right after this word from Marshall Oil. For the best fuel oil service and burner installation, remember the name Marshall. Marshall Oil offering fast 24-hour emergency service, convenient budget plans, and a large inventory of replacement parts. The Marshall family has been committed to serving your neighbors and local businesses for over 57 years. They're ready to serve you with warm, safe oil heat. Now that the warm weather has returned, Marshall Oil services and cleans your boilers. They also install new, more efficient heaters, air conditioners, and boilers to keep you comfortable year-round. Marshall Oil can keep you cool and refreshed all summer long with top-quality pool water at a price you can afford. Marshall's 6,000-gallon pool trucks are clean as a whistle, and they deliver your water on time. For the lowest possible prices and fast, dependable service, call Marshall Oil at 764-5766. That's 764-5766. Marshall Oil, a name that stands for service. And welcome back to Meet the VIPs with Mary Michele. You can give us a call at 241-1310. Mary Michele, I have a question here. We're going to talk generalities here as opposed to specifics. And that is, you had mentioned that the early astrologers were also astronomers. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, what was it? What insight did they have? Was it just, and again, I don't know, what was it? Just mapping the skies, looking up at it, and seeing certain heavenly bodies in certain locations that they said, this is going to do this? And how did that translate to character traits? How did that come about? I mean, they were able to map the stars, and then who came up with, well, if you are born as a blank, this is what's going to happen. And if you marry another different sign or whatever it is, things change. Who was this folklore that came down or what? I don't know.
Well, you have to think about the fact that these people had a lot of time to observe themselves, to observe how different things interreacted, how different plants worked in different ways, and so on. And I think by observing, they didn't have things to distract them. They couldn't rush from here to there. They couldn't watch television or listen to the radio or whatever. They had to really rely on their own intuition. And to be inspired by it. And as they relied on their intuition, ideas came to them. Because if you give yourself space, that is where you will come to your own creativity. And that's what they did. They came up with these concepts by observing themselves and others and giving themselves time to think about it.
I'm not sure if I have my question answered, or I'm not quite understanding the answer you gave me.
I don't know exactly how to. I mean, I can't tell you exactly how they came up with it. I mean, this happened 3,000 years ago, so we don't have any written record of it. We don't have any idea as to exactly how they came up with the idea. But I think a lot of it was through contemplation, meditation, observation. Just, observing the natural world.
All right, 241-1310 number to call. Are there different branches of astrology?
Many. There are horary astrologers.
A what?
Horary astrologers.
Would you kindly explain that one?
They're people that will answer your question. A very specific question, like, where are my car keys? Will I get back the thing that was taken from me? That kind of thing. Then there are mundane astrologers. Mundane astrologers study world events. There's a mundane astrologer called Nick Campion who works for, he does the astrology column for Bazaar, and he studies in depth things that have happened over generations, one of which is what's happening in Bosnia now. This was the time, that place in the world, Bosnia, I can't pronounce the second word.
Herzegovina.
You're right. That place in the world was where originally there was the split between the Christian church and what became the Orthodox Church and what became the church, the Western Catholic Church as we know it. So that place has been a hot spot of activity for a long, long time. Then at the beginning of this century, the First World War, it was where I think that guy Ferdinand, or the person that was shot, was assassinated.
Archduke.